Is Halloween the devil's holiday? Should we be celebrating Halloween? Is that something that is Christian-like? Should our children be participating? What are your thoughts on Halloween and Christianity?
Okay, so I think the best thing to do is to start from, like, where did this holiday?
What is Halloween?
What is it? Where did it come from? Because when we're growing up in Nigeria, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
So I think this largely applies to people living in North America, right? US, Canada, and the likes. Now, from the little research that I've done, and I may not get all this accurate, so make sure I fact check it. I found out that Halloween began long time ago, I think from like the 8th century or something like that, where there was it was a festival to sort of usher in winter. So at the end of the fall, so like 31st of October, they'll start to like usher in winter, and they believe that on the 31st of October there was like a loosening between the boundaries of the living and the dead, where evil spirits will wander into our present where evil spirits will wander, like that loosening between the living and the dead, right? So not necessarily only evil spirits, but spirits in general will wander into our own reality. So people would dress up to ward the evil spirits away.
Oh.
Yes, not actually to celebrate them like popular belief, not to celebrate them, just to ward off those evil spirits. So they would put on their own costumes to to protect themselves.
That's very interesting.
Then, not only that, then the church introduced All Hallows Eve on the 31st of October to also sort of to also celebrate the living and the people that had martyred,
yeah.
right? All Saints Day, which was later coined All Hallows Eve, which then became Halloween, right? And that started in the church. Again, they were celebrating people that had martyred and people that were also living, right? And they did that on the 31st of October. So if you're asking, for me, I had, I had my reservations when I first moved, abroad, about 20 years now. And I was like, I don't know. But as I did more research into it, and I felt like it was more difficult to keep my kids away from, because kids, right? They're seeing what their mates are doing. They're, celebrating. They're going outside. They're wearing costumes. They're doing all these things. And I felt like for the kids that feel left out, they find maladaptive ways most times, like they're hiding to go do it, and they're doing all these other things. So if you can control it in a way that that you're not celebrating evil or inviting it into your house, why not, right? Of course there's some caveats to that. We're not putting up like scary ass costumes, and pardon my French, and we're not putting up things like that, or celebrating. No, we're not doing that. But like, can the kids dress up as bunnies or pumpkins, or like can they participate? Because everyone else is participating. Not necessarily, that doesn't mean that they need to, but we took a personal decision for us to educate ourselves and our kids on what this is, and to ensure that they understand that we're not celebrating evil, and we're not welcoming that into our abode, but they're able to participate in that. And that's just a personal thing for us.
I've just never been a fan. I remember moving to the US in 2013, and I moved right in the fall. So like the first holiday I experienced was Halloween. And my roommates at the time, we used to live in an apartment. There was 6 girls, and they were all, white Americans, and this was their tradition, right? They wanted me as a Nigerian coming in to feel welcome and participate with them. And so it was a lot of pumpkin carving, and we went out to Walmart and got costumes, and I didn't feel happy about it. Like it wasn't exciting to me. First of all, the pumpkin thing was messy and smelly, and then the dressing up I didn't think it was cute. So ever since then, every time Halloween comes, I'm just not a fan. I sit that one out. And now I've, grown up, and I'm a parent now, and it's like, okay, I have 2 girls who want to participate in Halloween, because they start drumming it into their ears like a month before. This is coming, this is coming, this is coming, and you can see the decorations outside and everything. And for the last 3-4 years, I've just made them dress up and not necessarily go trick-or-treating. But now I'm even reevaluating that, because doing a deeper dive into the history of Halloween, yes, you're right. It started 2,000 years ago, or maybe even longer, where they would usher in winter and say, they called it literally the dark half of the year. And the connotation that spirits are crossing into the land of the living, and they are wandering spirits for that day, whether good or bad or whatever, it just rubs me off weird. And if there's anything I don't want, is to chance a situation where you take your kid to somebody's house who's like a devil worshiper or something and they're giving them candy. I don't know what that signifies. I don't know who is who. I don't trust anybody, because now you're watching Instagram and you're seeing people coming out to confess, oh, when I used to be a witch, when I used to be a wizard, this is what we do on Halloween. This is how we, there's a portal that opens around this particular house because there's all these decorations and these spirits around, because people go crazy with the decorations. Right. So how do you, I guess you can tell your kid, don't go to that house or don't go to the house, but you never know. So I don't even want to try. And I've had to have a conversation with my oldest daughter and say, hey, this is what it is. This is the meaning. As Christians, I don't think it's something that we should be celebrating.
I think it's largely how we were socialized, right? Sure. And if you think about it, if I'm going based off of what you said, that you never really know, and then wandering spirits, as Christians, we're also meant to believe that as we're sitting down here, there's spirits around us, good and bad, right? So it's not like it's on a particular day. Spirits can be anywhere. Again, your kids go to school, they mingle with all kinds of people. Yeah. If someone was, came from a house that had witches and wizards, they probably would not be advertising it. They probably might have a birthday in the school, in your class, in your kids' class, and pass around food and things like that, where your kids are also like, what's the word now? Like they're
celebrating with them and
celebrating, but they're exposed to that, right? Is what. So you can't really, if you're going with that angle of, because I don't want that exposure and things, you don't really know. So it's good that we're prayerful all the time, and not just maybe like on particular day of the year. Not saying that people are, but like if we're using that yardstick to say, because I don't want this or I don't want that. We've seen a lot of times where kids, like, my biggest thing is try to normalize it as much as possible to to your comfort level, right? So if that means you guys are doing the Christian version in your house, then maybe do that. Or if your church does, I know at my church when we were in BC used to do that. They'll do like a Christian version of Halloween. They do that. So they'll do their trick or treats in the car park, and they still do it till now. And then all the kids, because we're living in this part of the world where our kids, whether you want to expose them to it or not, trust me, they're getting exposed to it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to now know practical like parents that don't want their kids indulging or participating in Halloween. Are you making them sit at home that day? Are you like, what are you doing to shelter them from feeling like, oh my God, why is everybody around me dressed up? Why is everybody participating and I'm not? Because I hate that. I don't want that for my kid.
Right.
So I'm starting to consider maybe next year when it comes around, I'm going to call school ahead and be like, on this day we don't believe in this, and she's not coming. I feel like that's just one way to do it, because regardless of how we Christianize it or we try to make it as normal as possible, the origin of it is almost like, I don't want to compare apples and mangoes because one thing might not have to do with it, but it's almost like slavery in a way. If we pick a day and say that, this is the day, Africans were put in a boat or something and shipped off to the US as slaves, and then we take that date and start turn it to something else and normalize it, as opposed to grieving the day, which I think is what you should do. You now find a way to funkify it and normalize it and say, okay, because this happened on this bad thing happened on this day, let's find a nicer way to celebrate it. I know it sounds like an extreme comparison, but I'm saying that the history of a holiday,
but there was no bad thing that happened though.
They moved them from their literal homes as slaves onto a ship.
No, I'm talking about the origin of Halloween.
But that's the day the evil and the bad spirits are crossing over now. Is that not the connotation of that night?
But if you think about it, right, because there are two schools, and I don't want this video to go too long, but there are two schools of thoughts, right? Because Christians were also doing it in the church. From the 8th century, they were doing All Saints Day was a day to celebrate martyrs, and celebrate the living and the dead as well. And they called it All Saints Day, which then turned into All Hallows Eve, which we now got Halloween from.
So what were Christians doing to celebrate All Saints Day? Like, what was the practice?
The thing is, whatever they were practicing, it doesn't matter. The fact is that it also originated from there. So you are picking and choosing is what it is, because you cannot just say that it was this.
Christians have a lot, especially Catholics, they have a lot of holidays where it's like this person's day, St. this day, St. Patrick's Day, St. that day. We don't necessarily have anything we're doing culturally to say we're celebrating the saint or this anything. It's just a day to remember. Halloween before All Saints Day, because Christianity eventually moves to the France, UK and the Celts area, which is where All Saints Day started from. So there wasn't any practice. There wasn't nobody dressing up. There wasn't anything, decorations or anything
that we know about.
I mean, but these guys were already doing it before All Saints Day was introduced. Right. So that's the origin of it that I'm saying I don't know that I want my kids to be a part of.
Which is fine. The only thing, like what I just caution parents about is normalize whatever around, like pick your battles with things, right? If you want to stop it completely, there are risks to that, because then you pick their interest. Think about when you were younger, things that they tell you not to do, or things that our parents try to hide. That is where your interest wants to go. You're trying to figure out, why? What is that, right? So it picks their interest, which is why there are a lot of millennials that have completely cut out from church at this point, because their parents like harped on them, literally hounded them. Church morning, afternoon, night. There was no. So now they're like, yeah, no, I'm all churched out. I'm done. So there is such a thing as there's some risks right, where you completely shut them out of it, you know, and they don't, you know, you're saying, oh, I don't want to take them to school. What if they have a test on that day? What if like things are coming up on that? Because it is a school day. It's not like a public holiday or anything, right? So things to think about. My own is not asking anyone to celebrate or to, you know, or to not celebrate, or like at whatever your comfort level is, just make sure that you are not overly hiding these things from your kids so that they're not looking for that information from somewhere else, right? Where they will now feed them with something that you probably don't want them to know, right? So I think that's my own takeaway is celebrate if you want to celebrate. If you don't want to celebrate, don't. Don't let anybody make you feel guilty. I'm like, oh my God, you're worshiping the devil. Like, like no, don't do that.
And that's what separates. That's what not separates. That's what makes us individuals is the beliefs that we have. We can't all think the same and all do the same, and that's the uniqueness of life. And I think my closing thought on it is our parents definitely did some things where it was a hard yes or no, no explanation, and then we grow up and it's like, okay, I want to go and find out why you said no. But I feel like in the generation we're growing up in or raising our kids, and we can actually have those conversations with the kids and say, here's why. And they have social media, which we didn't have. We didn't have all that. So if you can talk to them, talk to the kids, like, you know, you're actually reasoning with a not a grown up, but like a human being, not that we're shouting or scolding. This is why, this is what, this is how. I feel like, you know, everybody can understand things better. So let us know what you guys are doing, because I'm curious to see what other parents are doing. How are you know, juggling your fate with the practice of Halloween, the trick-or-treating, the dressing up. Whether
you're Christian or Muslim or you know, if you practice it,
well, that's true, regardless of your religion.
Just let us know what you're doing. I know that I don't hang any decor or anything out, but my kids do dress up in nice outfits. We don't do all those like really spooky outfits.
I've heard some people make it like a career day for their kids. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly. So for the last couple of years, my daughter was a nurse or a doctor, and you know, we've gone through a lot of those things. So let us know what you guys are doing, and if you celebrate Halloween, happy Halloween. If you don't, read your Bible. Pray or Quran. God of Jesus.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.